Marty and I talked to certainly get, this is going to be the last session. We're going to be talking about 11 and 12. So I've been looking at things a little bit like this lately, as far as the trajectory of the 12 steps. You know, in step 1, I recognized that my life is unmanageable, and it's because of a lot of these manifestations of self and how they impact my ability to deal with life. Step 2, I come to believe that there's a power. I come to believe that there's a way of life that can put me into connection with a power that can solve my problem, solve my alcoholism problem. I make a decision in step 3. I make a decision to start doing the spiritual exercises that are going to bring me into a way of life that's a spiritual way of life. That will expel the obsession to drink and enable me to become whole. I make that decision in step 3. In step 4, I discover the manifestations of self that have been defeating me. Selfishness, resentment, fear, dishonesty. I discover those, and I see the terrible destructiveness not only in my own life and my own quality of life or spiritual condition, but that of other people around me. I impact other people. None of us are an island, you know. So in step 4, I discover these things. In step 5, I share about these things. What do I share about? My resentment, my selfishness, my dishonesty, my fear. The manifestations of self that have defeated me. And a lot of the damage that is caused because of that. In step 6, I become willing to have these manifestations of self removed. And in step 7, I humbly ask for these manifestations of self to be removed. Basically, selfishness, resentment, fear, and dishonesty. In step 8, I put down on paper, if I don't already have a good inventory list of the people in the institutions that my character defects have harmed: my selfishness, my dishonesty, my resentment, and my fear. And I become willing to make direct amends to those people and institutions. In step 9, I go out and make direct amends to those institutions and those people, sharing with them whatever character defects impacted or damaged or harmed them. And in step 10, Marty was talking about, living this stuff right here, right now. What am I supposed to watch for? I'm supposed to watch for resentment, selfishness, fear, dishonesty. I'm supposed to watch for it in real time and take action when they crop up. And then in step 11, those first 10 steps have really taught me how to live a spiritual life. In step 11, I prepare my day with upon awakening. There's additional instructions for what I need to do as it crops up in real time, just like in step 10, as I move through the day. And at night, I constructively review my day. I constructively review. Have I lived spiritually? Have I attended to the selfishness, the dishonesty, the resentment, and fear the way I should have? And there's instructions here that are great. And retiring at night, I constructively review my day. Was I resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Upon awakening, let's think about the 24 hours ahead. As I go through the day, I pause when agitated or doubtful, asking for the right thought or action. So don't just do something, stand there. Is really what it's asking us to do. We're no longer running the show ourselves, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done." I want to share like 3 stories. That's how I'm going to end this. I'm going to totally botch the whole trajectory of this thing up, Marty. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna share a number of things. All right. So the first thing I want to share is this step 11 really asks me to dig deep spiritually, to go deep, to be a seeker. It's really asking me to be a seeker, and I want to share about. I was out at a retreat in California about 3 months ago, and somebody out there that I respect enough to listen to when he makes a book recommendation. Anybody ever make book recommendations to you? You know, my God. So, but I listened to this guy and I gave it a try. And I'm not going to mention the book because it's kind of a tradition thing to recommend outside literature. But okay, it's God the bestseller. All right, Marty. And it's written by a guy named Stephen Patero. And I want to tell you the story of this book. Okay? Because it actually makes sense when looking at the 11th step. So, here's the story. This guy's a book dealer, and he buys book collections. He especially buys like estate book collections, high-end hardcover, collectible books. And there's this family out on Cape Cod that's calling him up and bugging him. You got to come out. And it's a real long haul for him. So he's like putting it off. Finally, he goes there. And he walks into this house. And he looks. And he's like, oh my God. It is the largest collection of beautiful first edition spiritual books, signed by the author, most of them, that he's ever seen in his life. And he's like, oh my God. He goes, who the hell lived here? And he comes to find out the guy that lived there was named Axman. He had owned the house and he had died like years and years ago. But he's so interested. He can't believe what he's seeing, and he starts spending a lot of time there. And this guy Axman never threw anything away. There was boxes of letters and all this stuff. And the guy just starts spending all his time there. It's just fascinating to him what he's finding. And come to find out that what Axman was he was the religion editor for Harper's Publishing from the mid-20s to the mid-70s, this guy. So what did he do? He colored our whole perspective on religion and spirituality in the 20th century. And he did it by picking the authors, editing the authors, and publishing the authors, and turning things into bestsellers. And some of the people, he countless people this guy edited, but I'll just name some of them that you'll recognize their name. Albert Schweitzer, Martin Luther King Jr., Yogananda, Hurd, Huxley, all these people, he brought them to our attention with his publishing. And a lot of these people, yes, they were real spiritual people, and he helped them publish the books. But not only did they have really deep spiritual convictions, but they accomplished extraordinary things. And guess who he finds all throughout this collection in letters and documents? Bill Wilson. He finds Bill Wilson's stuff in there. Come to find out, he has been buddies with Bill Wilson since like the late 40s. And they were tight. And there was a group of them that got together and went really deep spiritually. With like Huxley, and they would meet with these people. These were the top people in experiential spirituality in America today. And Bill Wilson would be having a steel on steel group with them. You know what I mean? I'm serious. In the 50s. And it's remarkable. And come to find out that Axman was so close to Bill Wilson, he's the guy that did the final editing and publishing on the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions and AA Comes of Age. I did not know that until I read this book. Because he was friends with Bill, he allowed Bill to have a special deal with Works Publishing, and you could go ahead and, publish it in perpetuity, Bill. You do whatever you need to do, Bill. But he's the guy that put that stuff together. Now, I'm looking around the audience. I think this is safe. There was a period of time in the 50s where Bill and some people did some deep spiritual experimenting with a substance called LSD. Now, many of us, when we first heard this, got a really bad impression. We got the wrong impression. Bill was partying? No. In the 50s, this particular drug was seen as a gateway to spiritual experiences that psychiatrists and religion people were studying. Because people, the first people who had taken this drug had come back saying, I saw God, you know? So there was a small group of these people, Axman, Tom Powers, Bill Wilson, the psychiatrists, you know, the Huxley, who would have these small meetings, and they would partake of this substance looking for an extra added tool for deep spiritual experience. Now, after Lois turned into a Muppet on Bill, you know, they recognized that this may not be the right direction to go. So they abandoned this, and they saw it as, there's some interesting stuff going on here, but, you know, but spiritual practice is how you have to do this, right? There's not going to be a shortcut, but there was a short period of time. Now you don't find any of this stuff in AA literature, but he found it in Axman's. Axman is the guy who kept all this stuff. They would write, they would journal as they were doing their experiments, and all these journals were found in this guy's house. Now this book, God the Bestseller, details not only the experience with Bill Wilson, but the experience this guy had with a lot of the other deep spiritual thinkers. Why am I going off on this crazy tangent? It is because I believe Bill gave us a recipe to continue to dig really, really deep into this thing called spirituality. Broaden and deepen our understanding. Broaden and deepen our experience. We don't stop. We don't just go through the steps and, I'm good now, Marty. You know, call you in 10 years. This needs to be a vital piece of our way of life. And our co-founder, the principal architect of Alcoholics Anonymous, not only talked the talk, he walked the walk. And he walked the walk with the absolute best people you could walk the walk with in America and in the English-speaking world. And I just find that really amazing. I'm going to tell another story, and then I'm going to do something that Marty asked me to do. And none of it's going to make any sense, really, probably. Doesn't matter. Let me find where I got to go. So, all right. So here is here's the story that I want to tell you. All right, here it is. Here's the story I want to tell you. What I did for a living. What do I do for a living? What did I do for? I'm a facility manager. And what a facility manager is basically property management. I'm in charge of everything that has to do with the building except the business. So the maintenance on the building, the yard work, the custodial services, the dining services, the construction projects, all project management, all this stuff. This is what I would do for a living. I would be in charge of that. And I went from being, a bad electrician to being a facility manager in charge of large pharmaceutical research and development sites and manufacturing plants. So I would be in charge of 1 million square foot laboratory system with energy centers and vivariums and all this crazy stuff. And I would have all these employees, and my job basically was to oversee the physical plant and everything that has to do with the physical plant. So the people who were the pharma people could just concentrate on their business. They didn't need to get involved in HR with, cooks and cleaners and stuff like that. I did all that, right? So I had some really big jobs toward the end of my career. And then COVID hit, right? COVID hits, and I got furloughed. Anybody in here get furloughed during COVID? Did you ever get unfurloughed? Because I never got unfurloughed. We'll bring you back when the time is right, Chris. So what I did is I said, look, I'm at that age, right? I'm at that age when I can retire. So I turned on Social Security and Medicare and all that stuff, and I retired. No big deal. And I need to, my wife is still working. She's younger than me. She's working, and I'm retired. And there's something I like to do. I got to tell you, something I like to do more than anything in the world. Marty knows what it is. You know what I like to do? Nothing. I love to do nothing. You ever just do nothing, like sit on the couch and stare into space? So I'm sitting there doing nothing this one day, and my wife Andrea walks in, and she goes, "What are you doing?" Nothing. There's a list of stuff to do around the house. And I'm like, I know. You don't have to keep reminding me every 6 months. I'll get to it. I will. And so I started to think, God, I'm able-bodied. I still got some horsepower left. And I start looking around, and a job pops up. A job pops up about 8 miles away from my house. And it's a little puppy job compared to what I used to do. It is a facility manager job for a hospice. And so I apply there, they hire me, I give good interview. After that, it's a whole other story. But but they hire me, and I start working there. And now I want to tell you something. I fell in love with this job. I am working. 98% of the people in this company are women, and most of them are doing some of the most heroic acts of compassion on a day-to-day basis that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, this is hospice, right? And I'm in there, and I have an office in the inpatient hospice unit of this hospice. So I'm in the inpatient probably 60% of my time, and taking care of the other sites, the other 40. But I start to feel pretty comfortable with who I'm working with and what's going on. And I start to notice something, and what I noticed was this. You know who shows up in hospice? We do. Okay, we do, and we're not hard to spot. Lung cancer, liver cancer, esophagus cancer, whatever. And I started to pay attention to some of these people, and I got the job under control, so I got some bandwidth, and I just started to go in and I started to talk to a lot of these people, tell them who I am, I'm in recovery, whatever, and this one period of time there ended up being 3 people in the hospice who were alcoholic. One of them was on intubation and wasn't really going to make it. One of them was about to celebrate 40 years sober in the hospice. And you know what I did? I got everybody together. I got our birthday cake, and we did it Southern California style. Big happy birthday 40-year cake. Her family was there and everything. And it was just really, really cool. And then there was a young lady in there, early 30s, advanced cirrhosis of the liver. And she shows up in hospice. She had gone in there to check out. Bad shape, yellow, ascites. It was a mess. And I start going in and talking to her, and she's a sweetheart, right? And some of the things I tell her is, look, this isn't your fault. You haven't even been exposed to a recovery process. You've just been stumbling around in the dark with this alcoholism thing. Let me share some stuff with you. And then I said, hey, I'm a part of a home group, not far down the street. would it be okay if I bring some of the women in, to talk to you, some of the women and to share? And she goes, that'd be okay, that'd be okay. So I show up in my home group and I raise my hand and I make an announcement. I need women for a commitment. And so the women came up to me after the meeting and they go, what's this all about? And I go, I want you to come down to the inpatient hospice and I want you to bring a meeting to somebody. And the first reaction is like, why? And I'm just like, because they're reaching out their hand. That's why, they're reaching out their hand. So 6 of these women come down from the home group. And they come in and they meet the lady with 40 years, and she's hugging them all and everything. And then they go in and they sit with the young lady with advanced cirrhosis of the liver, and they're in there an hour. They're like in there an hour and a half, right? They come out and their minds are blown. I'm talking about the AA people. And there's this one AA lady who had like 30 years sober, and she grabs me outside. She goes, "Chris, that was the most pivotal experience I've experienced in AA. That was the most amazing thing I've experienced in 30 years in AA." And they had fallen in love with this girl, and they started coming back. And every week we had a meeting, but they'd be texting and they'd be showing. They just started loving on this person. And I need to tell you, from the moment that they circled her bed, there was a change. I saw a change in this girl, and she started to fight. And a couple of months go by, and everybody's loving on her, and she, and there's going to be a Zoom call with the surgeon who's running this whole case, and the question is going to be, can I get on the liver transplant list? Her liver's liver's shot, right? Can I get on the liver transplant list? And so the AAs are there, and the nurses are there, and the family's there, and everybody's looking at this Zoom. And the main surgeon, she asked the question, can I get on the liver transplant list? And the main surgeon goes, we're not going to put you on the transplant list. And she goes, why? And the surgeon goes, damn it, we're looking at your labs, and you're getting better. I swear to God, 2 months later, we walked her out of there. She was walked out. Now, I need to tell you, the chances of somebody walking out of inpatient hospice is not big. You don't bet a lot of money on that one, right? It may happen, but it's like 1 in 1,000. Now I got to tell you, we're talking about the 12-step. We're going to be talking about carrying the message. The women in my home group carried the message to this young lady with cirrhosis of the liver. A change happened. She got better, and we walked her out of there, and she went off to, do her outpatient or whatever. She was gonna do physical therapy and stuff like that. And I saw the power again, the power that is unmistakable, the power that I don't believe in a power greater than myself anymore. I know, I've seen it. I saw the power, working through those women in that hospice. One of them became a volunteer. She's a volunteer now because of that experience. And that's an amazing experience I've had. You don't know what these 12-step things are going to be like. The opportunity can pop up, right? The opportunity can pop up. And talking about 12-step, I want to talk about what I've termed the 12 inconveniences. Has anyone ever told you about the 12 inconveniences? All right, I got to tell you this story. I'm doing like 1 million Zooms. I'm there with Marty and Jack and Clea. We're doing like 1 million Zooms. JJ's on them all. And there's this one guy who, it might be cultural, but it just came off really inappropriate. Like there'd be 30 people on the Zoom, and they're all kind of chit-chatting, and there's a way you can chit-chat on Zoom. There's a way. And he comes like out of left field. He's like, Chris, I want you to share in my meeting, And I'm like, oh my God, take it offline, chat me or something, right? And he bugged me. Okay, I'll God damn it, I'll speak on your Zoom at 3 in the morning, in New Guinea or wherever the hell it is, right? I'll do it. And a couple of weeks go by, and he shows back up, and he's asking me, I need a title for your talk. Got to give a name to your talk. And so he breaks in everybody, right? I get really pissed off, and I can be a wise ass. Some people know that. And I go, okay, yeah, I'll give you the talk. They've just discovered a whole bunch of Bill Wilson's writings that were never discovered before. And, he had done the 12 steps, he'd done the 12 traditions, he'd done the 12 concepts. Well, he just found this work that he was working on the 12 inconveniences. And that's what I'll give my talk on. I'm being a total wise ass.
Now on page.
So about 2 weeks later, I see the flyer. The flyer goes out internationally, right? I'm like, oh God, oh jeez. So I gotta think on my feet. So here's what I came up with. Went to page 97, all right, in working with others, and guess what? There's 12 inconveniences, and I'm gonna read them. Okay. Helping others is the foundation of stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while is not enough. Now, this is the instruction on how we are to be available to carry this message after we've gone through the first 11 steps, after this thing starts to become a way of life. This is the cement that's going to keep us in this thing that has saved our life and makes our life better on a daily basis, right? You have to act a good Samaritan every day if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep. Great interferences with your pleasures. You ever have somebody call? I had this guy he just kind of lately, he was like calling me in the middle of the night, calling me early in the morning. And this is how I react when somebody calls me, at an inconvenient time. Ring. God damn it! Who the hell is that? This is how I answer the phone. Hello? Oh, I got some stuff going on I want to run by you. All right. It's 2 in the morning. Can we run by it tomorrow, maybe? Great interferences with your pleasures. Listen, our life is none of our business when we get to this point. If you don't understand that, you missed something. It's none of our business. Like things just appear and automatically we go into 12-step mode. These opportunities and would I like to just do nothing all weekend? Yeah. But that never happens. There's always phone calls and this, that, the other. Somebody's in trouble. So is there great interference with my pleasures? Yeah, but I don't even know if I'd call it interference because it's part of my life. Interruptions to your business. So in the last 25 years or so, I've always let my boss know that I have kind of a unconventional way of approaching work, and it's a little unorthodox. And I need to tell you that every once in a while, I'm gonna get a call that I'm gonna have to step out of work, or I might even have to leave work. I'm telling you before any of this happens that I will never steal time for you. I will make up whatever time I need to take for this unorthodox thing that is going on in my life. And they've always been cool with it if I'm honest with them and I'm upfront about it. So I get calls during business all the time. Hey, Chris, how you doing? You at work? Well, actually, yes. I'm at work. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And so, that happens all the time. It may mean sharing your money, your home. I don't share my money as much anymore because I'm working with a different group of people. But have I lent people money? Have I given people money? Right, Marty. You don't lend. You're an idiot if you're lending alcoholics money. So do I give people money? It's like throwing money in a church basket, Do I do that? Yeah, if it's appropriate, as long as it's not, prolonging someone's inability to practice spiritual principles. Yeah, if somebody's like really trying, and listen, life happens. Sometimes I've done it quite a few times. My home, I've had many times people living at my house. You know what I mean? Steve Ash, right? Steve lived with Mike for a while. Mike was tired of him, so he ended up living with me for a while. And you do it. I know. Sometimes we do this. This is an inconvenience. It's one of the 12 inconveniences. Counseling frantic wives and relatives. Listen. Little Joey gets caught, ODing on fentanyl, and the parents are freaked out, right? They're like, oh my God. And they know shit about what to do, where to send them, what's going on. They don't know anything. So a lot of times my wife and I, we get a lot of phone calls, from frantic parents or wives or whatever. And we try to tell them as accurately as we can, what's going on, and what would probably be the best set of actions to take to minimize the harm. Innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Now, the only thing, I haven't gone to a lot of sanitariums or asylums lately. Right, but I'll do everything else. I have a treatment center commitment. Absolutely. I would call them innumerable because I don't know how many times I've done it. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. So it'll be fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, and the score will be tied. And I'll hear ring, and I'll go, God damn it! It's the fourth quarter. What idiot is calling? Hello? And I'll tell you one thing that drives me crazy. Everybody wants to go to treatment on the weekend. Yeah. Right? When all the admissions departments are closed and everything, right? If you're going to hit bottom, would you please do it Monday through Friday? You know what I mean? It's a big pain in the ass. It's like 11 o'clock Friday night. I need to go in. Your wife may sometimes say she's neglected. That happens. Sometimes I get overzealous and travel too many weekends. I've got the next 7 weekends I'm doing something. And it was bad planning. And she's upset. A drunk may smash your furniture in your home or burn a mattress. I haven't had a mattress burned, but I've had the cigarette butt hole in the couch. I've had money stolen. I've had cars disappear. I've had all that stuff in my overzealous, trying to work with newcomers I probably shouldn't have gone near. But you got to learn somewhere. You may have to fight with him if he's violent. So I'm real serious about this. If you're working with me, I'm pushing you toward the martial arts. And the reason I do that is some people need a meeting, some people need a beating. That's just the way it is. And just the way it is.
Just the way it is.
Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under your direction. This is the only thing I don't do out of the 12 inconveniences. Marty, because I had a real bad experience being the sedative administrator back in the 70s. I allowed some people to be over sedated, and we were all in high school, and we slept for 3 days, all of us, and it caused a lot of concern among some parents. So I don't do that. I really try to get medical surveillance. If somebody needs like super detoxing or something, medical surveillance. Get some. Don't screw around. If there's absolutely no way to get somebody to a detox or an ER or something like that, what I've done is I've gotten a bunch of those airline bottles, like whiskey airline bottles. And you give 2 bottles an hour for 5 hours, 1 bottle an hour for 5 hours, and you can help I've tapered people off a few times, but I just don't like doing it because you can die in the midst of an alcohol detox, and it's inconvenient if it's like on your porch or something, Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. I've had to do that. Occasionally you will have to meet some of these obligations, and why I read this, besides Marty asking me to do it, is because it's our job. This stuff is our job. We've been granted a reprieve from a devastating, progressively fatal illness. And our job is to stay in fit spiritual condition, and this is how you do it. Right, Marty?
Right.
Finish your song.
Okay, we'll get you out of here in 10 minutes, folks. Get the rest of get the rest of your Saturday in order. Beautiful, Chris. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. That is actually one of the funniest things I ever heard. And I watched the whole thing play out. And when he didn't have a topic and he just came up with that, and it was like, I was there when he actually was doing the rip, and it was like, it's pretty good, man. So I've got it highlighted in my book that says the 12 inconveniences. He was just telling me before the meeting started, someone actually plagiarized it recently, which didn't even give him credit for it. But this, when I was coming out of that step 10 stuff with such sort of adamance and like a steely determination around living this life of sobriety, it's almost like you have a process in respite care where you go through the steps and going through inventory, and you start to make amends, and then you start to understand that this power is going to keep you in the center. You're going to stay in the center of recovery as long as you stay connected, and that actually so that opens up the door to the seeking piece. And Chris gave me a book a couple years ago, gave me a lead on a book a couple years ago, American Vita, and what that book did is it absolutely changed the way that I exercise meditation. And it's not because there was any new directions in there. It's just I saw so much stuff that I was missing. So much stuff that when it says pause when agitated or doubtful, where it says pause, I noticed that there was a lot of stuff that I was missing because I thought I had learned enough in here about the practice of meditation that I had going on. But what I learned was that when these things are available to us to use, whether it's a book or this, you look at this stuff here, and it's given us specific directions about how to live in this spirit. So last night I get down on my knees at my bedside at my suite that Chris has provided for me, the Marty Cosgrove suite, and I got at my bedside and I did what it is that I'm asked to do here. And what it looks like for me, again, this practical piece, is that I do it on my knees. Position is optional, but I do it on my knees. And you look at this stuff on page 86 and you're given these specific directions that Chris read out. This is when we retire at night. You don't have to wait until it's bedtime or anything like that. I happen to. I got a mat beside my bed and I just got some stuff set up there and I get on my knees and I got to tell you, this is what it looks like 90% of the time. That's what it looks like. That's my sober life today. 90% of the time. It doesn't matter what I hit through that day. When it's time to reconcile it with this power, the God of my understanding, it's like, really? You did that again? It's still happening? That's still there? And it's become this flavor of conviviality between me and my newfound friend. And my newfound friend does not make harsh terms. It brings it softly to my awareness. Today, There may have been things that I did today that will not come to my awareness at 11:30, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever it is to go to bed. But it's going to come. And my job is to and I wrap it up all the time with what they say is asking for corrective measures, and I just say, show me how to live. You know, I always end up with, let me be a vehicle for you, and you show me how to live. And I go to bed, and I sleep wonderfully. Now I get up the next morning. My morning practices are nowhere near as sound as my evening practices. But they're very, very similar to what's being asked of me here. God, direct my thinking. You know, JJ yelled this morning, hey, time to get up. I'd been rolling around for about 10 minutes, just contemplating the day, nervous to meet all you folks, wondering about how this was going to go today. You know, I'm human. So before my feet hit the ground, my ego wants to attack the day that's about to come. And it doesn't last very long for me, because I find this place of peace and this place of comfort that I get another day of challenge. And I thank God for restoring me to awakeness, and I get up. And when he yells my name, it's like 3 seconds and I'm coming out the door. My practice on the mornings is a lot less influential, it seems, on my life than my evening review. That's just me. Because all through the day, I can pause when agitated or doubtful. When these things crop up, like I said in the 10th step, I immediately set about amending or correcting these things as they come. Now, that's how the practice looks. When it tells us that we need to grow in effectiveness and usefulness around this tool, and reading and sharing with each other, I mean, that to me is where it all, like sitting around tables or, I'm talking about dinner tables and stuff like that, and talking with people about their relationship with the power, their relationship, their experience, being in the dark, being brought out into the light, and then how that happened for them, and how they sort of stay connected to that power today. That's where I get my juice. That's where I get my juice to live that way. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of those 11 steps. You see, July the 16th, 1987, I think it was several hours ago that I talked about being brought to my knees in a jail cell and yelled out, I can't live like this, I don't want to live like this anymore. And the power came. And for 14 years, I thought that's what you meant. I thought that was the power you were talking about. And I tried to transmit that experience, and it was never effective. You know, people thought I was a lunatic, like for hearing a voice and all that kind of stuff. People thought I was crazy. So I just held it. It was personal. It wasn't a part of my recovery, my sobriety life. This is tangible. Having had an experience as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message and practice these principles in all our affairs. And thank Chris for going into the 12 and 12 and talking about that Tradition 9 thing. What a discovery that is about personal disobedience to spiritual principles is what's going to cause you any anguish at all, not just return you to drinking. Your personal disobedience to spiritual principles is responsible for 100% of your angst. Whether it's anxiety or fear, or whether it's resentment or anger, your personal disobedience to spiritual principles is 100% responsible for your angst. And so my job is to get constantly connected. And I do it through you. I talked about it earlier today. When it says, when these things crop up, this is what I do, this is what I do, and I turn my attention to someone I can help. This is a 12-step opportunity for me. And I don't ever have to look far. I never have to look far for somebody to help. And when I'm going here, like if I'm taking a new guy through these steps, and you talk to JJ and a couple other guys that here, you go, these guys are taking books, meeting new guys at meetings, setting it up, and meeting at a coffee shop and sitting down and taking guys through the work. These are specific directions on how to do that. There's nothing missed. There's no stone unturned here, I find. I don't know like how it could be so specific and deliberate and so wonderfully sort of laid out for us exactly how to carry this message. And yet again, we meet people in recovery who don't sponsor, who don't carry this message, who don't work with others. And I'm not, if there's any of you in the room, don't take this personally. Just take it. We have a 12-step program. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of these 11 steps, I'm directed to do this now. Carry this message that I've just had the experience of to other alcoholics. If I don't do that, if I'm not doing that, if I'm loving AA and going to meetings and all that shit, but never connecting with a new guy or never connecting with anybody, never carrying this message, if I'm not doing that, chances are pretty good I really didn't get step 10 and 11. Chances are pretty good that I didn't get step 11 for sure. And if that's true, if I'm not practicing the seeking of a power, if that's not really happening for me, if this is just a rudimentary thing or something that's theoretical in the book, like step 10, and I'm not practicing those things when these crop up, if I'm not doing that, I probably didn't make all my amends. Just going to go out there on a limb. I might not have even made any. I might have thought, well, at least I'm not hurting anybody today, so I didn't make any amends. I didn't even need to make a list, really, and I didn't need to become willing to make amends because I'm not going to make amends. And so if I didn't do that, I probably don't really believe that I even have any defects of character and shortcomings anymore, because goddamn it, I didn't drink today. And if I believe that, then I probably just stop talking to people in step 5, and I'm not taking my inventory, I'm taking your inventory. My life is spent on assessing the situations of my life as being damaging and troubling. If that's true, I probably reneged on my deal I made in step 3. You look after me and your performance work well. I reneged on that deal that I made in step 3. And if that's true, I'm probably sitting under that sort of auspices of being restored to sanity, and I'm not really restored to sanity. And then step 2 is just I'm not participating in step 2. God isn't everything or nothing. In fact, God is just a small part of my life. And if that's true, my life isn't unmanageable by me. I've been managing it for my whole sobriety. And I'm probably not powerless, and I should get shit-faced. And that's the 12 steps in reverse. And sadly, it's how it works. You will not stay in AA. I wouldn't stay here if I wasn't connected to you. There are people here for 30 and 40 and 50 years, and it's very difficult for us to talk about time when we're talking about elements of spirituality. Because there is no time in the spiritual world. It's always only ever now. Just like we said earlier, it's always only ever now. But if I'm not executing sharing the message of those 11 steps with somebody, then I'm not in a 12-step program. I'm in what I believe would be like a 1.5-step program. And it's only because I followed all the directions that I was willing to follow. I don't know how you can do this. I don't know how you can be around here for 2 years and 3 years and 5 years and 8 years and 10 years and never have a sponsee. And you'll say stupid shit like nobody's asked me. That's what you'll say when I say to you, you got nobody? You're not sponsoring anybody? Oh, no, nobody's asked me. You've been sitting around discussion tables for 5.5 years sharing, but nobody thought it sharing enough good stuff that they thought maybe you could help them. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't answer my questions. Don't. I get frustrated by it because you're going to come at me with some sort of rationale that some need a meeting and some need a beating. And it's like, doesn't make any sense to me that you would sit here and try to justify that to me. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, so we sat here all day and talked about the need for taking the steps. If you take those 11 steps, you can't hold those guys back. You can't hold JJ and Jack and Cleo. You can't hold them back, Dane. You can't hold them back from helping people. They're in constant thought of others. You know, it tells us in the top of page 20, it said our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others and how we might help meet their needs. I got a guy that sends me his inventory from Yonkers. Every day he sends it to me, and he has a percentage. He's been able to manage a sort of numerical perspective on how much time in a day he thinks of others and how much time in a day he thinks of himself. And like it's about 80-20 on the average. 80-20, 80 self, 20 others. On the average. And he's a good dude. Imagine if he bumped that up to 50-50. You know, and it's yourself, you can do that relatively easy just now. Thinking about today. How much time here today did you think of others? And how much time here today did you think of yourself? It's not hard to do, you know. But this 12th step, you know, it says we can't give it away if we haven't got it. I have this thing, Brian and I were talking about that. You guys know the 5th step promises, right? As we begin to feel the nearness of our Creator, we start to have a spiritual experience. Before we just had like a sort of a belief. Now we start to have a spiritual experience. We begin to have that spiritual experience, and my gum's drying up in my mouth. We begin to have this spiritual experience, and so I'm moving from this place to that in the 5th step, and I got to turn around now. Say I've got a guy for a month. I've been working with a guy for a month. He has to turn around now and offer the help to somebody else. What help? The same help that Bill Wilson and Bob engaged in, the same help that they engaged in the third person, the same help that they began to do when they started taking people through the work. He has to engage in that help. And they say, oh my God, like the guy's a month sober. What's he going to tell him? How about the first 5 steps? How about that? How about he tells him just about the first 5 steps and then stays ahead of him? You know, don't let him catch up. You know, don't balk at amends and then don't ever do amends and then he goes, whoop, sails right by you. we're always been the half blind leading the blind. We've always been the half blind leading the blind. Nobody here, except for Nicoletta, is fully actualized. Nobody, all right? The rest of us are always going to be struggling towards that ability. And so we've always been the half blind leading the blind. And I don't think that, when you look at all of these, think of the lengths that sometimes people will go to help somebody else. The miles they'll travel to get in the car. You were talking about it with your sister's house, right? Just to help for somebody, just to help out. We're not talking about life-saving alcoholism stuff. We're talking about being there. I'll tell a real quick story and then I'll shut up. And I shared it with a couple of guys, but I love it. And about a year, just before COVID, we had a men's retreat up in Orangeville in north of Toronto. And a bunch of men, 60, 70 men there, and we were ripping it up. And on the Saturday night, a guy named Olaf, some of you might know Olaf, a guy named Olaf was going to come and share and take us through a little meditation process. And we got wind that his son had overdosed and died, and he couldn't make it. Olaf couldn't make it. And we were all devastated. We felt horrible for the guy because we're all close. So right around just after dinner time, the evening was settling in, and we were all sort of getting cash, and Olaf walks in the door. And it's like, oh my God. And we got a chance to get around him and put our arms around him and love on him and all that kind of stuff. And Scott L. walks right in behind him from Tennessee. This is Orangeville, Canada, north of Toronto. And Scott L. walks in behind him, and I said, holy shit, Scott, what are you doing here? And I went up and gave him a hug and said hello, and he said, well, you know, Marty, he says, how do you word it? He says, you can fake caring, but you can't fake showing up. That's the 12th step. Show up. That's the 12th step. Thanks so much, guys, for a wonderful day. I absolutely loved it.
All right. Thank you, everybody.